Thank you for joining me today for our webinar on 3 features to consider this spring. Over the next 20 minutes or so, I'll be walking you through a brief overview of permissions, show work, and web test late penalties. If you happen to have any questions throughout the session, please feel free to chat those into the question and answer box located at the bottom center of Zoom, and I'll be sure to reserve some time at the end to address your questions. With that, I'll go ahead and get started. So we'll start with permissions. Within the Hawks Instructor Gradebook, if you are a course administrator, you have the ability to set different permission levels for various people that you add into the platform here. So on the Tools tab, under Manage Instructors and Sections, when you add a new instructor, you have the option to select their role. When you click what's this here, it will show you the different permission levels that you have options to select from. So if you are the course administrator, again, you have the option to change this permission level. You could come in here and add someone as the course administrator, meaning they can change all users' settings. You can add them as an instructor. This is typically what most people are added into the instructor platform as, where they can change their own section settings, but they would not have access to everybody else's. You can add in a teaching assistant. They would be able to view and edit student grades and attendance. You can add someone with a view-only access if they need to be able to view grades and attendance, but would not be able to edit anything. And finally, you can add in what we call an attendance taker. That person would only be able to view and edit attendance. So for this example, let's do testing number 1. We'll add their email in here. And then let's say that you're adding them as an instructor. Click Next. And then we'll add testing 1 here as the section name. And for this example, I won't fill out all of the section details, but we'll finish it here. Now you'll notice that all of the roles are listed here. And if you ever wanted to change what permission levels a student or a user has access to, you could do so within this permissions column. Now for instructor and course administrator, there's nothing to change there. A course administrator can view and access everything, so there's no need to go in and add any additional settings to allow them to access everything. For an instructor, they can edit their own settings and courses. But now where you can start to change some of the permission levels and what users have access to is beginning with the teaching assistant and lower. So we'll look here at the teaching assistant permissions and click these 3 horizontal dots. And this box pops up here where you can see what that user has access to as far as full rights, viewable rights, and no access. If the box is gray or the circle is grayed out here, the radio button is grayed out here, you cannot change that permission level. If it is selectable, then you can change it. So this instructor is added in here as a teaching assistant. So they have full rights to view and edit anything within all student scores and detailed student grades. Let's say you only wanted them to be able to view but not edit. You would simply change the radio button here to viewable rights. Or maybe you don't want them to have access to a particular report, such as detailed student grades. You could say no access here. And it works similarly for any of the other grading reports here as well. You'll notice that it's broken out by grading, lessons, and web test, just to make it easier to organize and find what you're looking for. And then under assignments, as a reminder, we're in here as teaching assistants. So by default, they would be able to view the assignment due dates here, web test due dates, and so on. If you ever wanted to change those permissions, again, just change the radio button to either no access or full access, meaning they can also edit. You'll notice they have grade settings broken out here for assignment groups, lesson late penalty, attendance, that sort of thing. And finally, there are a few tool options here, such as manage sections, where you can view your section name, the section start and end date, whether you're allowing work to be carried in or not. That's all under manage sections, changing password, communications, and the student to-do list. So you do have customization over each of the permission levels from teaching assistant and lower. Let me hop in here one more time. Again, you'll find that here under roles. So teaching assistant, view only, and attendance taker can all be customized further. If you are not a course administrator, you would need to reach out to the course administrator within your gradebook to request different permission level. Just as a reminder, only the course administrator or administrators in the gradebook have the ability to change any of those permission levels. All right, so moving on to show work. On the assignments tab under web test, you have the option to enable a box for students to either show their work or explain their thinking, or alternatively, they can upload an image of their paper pencil written out solution to that question. So let's say we're creating a new test, or you can always click this paper pencil icon to edit a test that you already have created if you wanted to enable the show work there. But for this example, we'll create a new one. Choose your curriculum. And I'll just hop into 1.1 for this example. All right, so let's say I add a few questions from lesson 1.1. And you can enable show work on a per question basis. So it does not have to be for every question on a web test assignment. It can just be for a particular question or questions. Let's say there's one particular question that you definitely want to see the fully worked out solution for, whereas the others, you're okay with them just entering their answer. You'd simply click enable show work. Once you clicked it, it changes to disable show work, meaning you have enabled the show work option. That's all you have to do. What this means is on the student side, when they're taking their web test assignment, they would see a show work box on that questions page, where again, they could either type out their thinking to explain their thought process, or they can enter mathematical expressions in there to show their work. Alternatively, they can take a picture of their worked out solution on paper and upload that to their web test. Now that won't play into their grade in any way, but you would have access to that fully worked out solution when you are reviewing their test. So if you give partial credit for maybe unsimplified answers, maybe the student entered that unsimplified answer into HOPS and it did not give them credit, whatever it might be. Let's say you wanted to give though the partial credit based off of their solution, then you could. So it's just there, it's easy to access. It's all within that one web test review page, rather than having to access that worked out solution separately. And finally, let me hop out of this assignment builder page. Within the web test area, you can set a late penalty. So this is new as of the last about month or so, where it works similarly to a lesson late penalty if you're familiar with that. But you could apply a penalty for students completing a web test assignment after the web test end date. So to do that, you would check the box for a web test assignment, click General Settings, and you'll notice that there is a new column over here on the right. So we have previously allowed for late submissions by checking this box, meaning you have an end date listed here. However, if you check this box, you're allowing students to go in after that date and still submit it after that suggested end date. But now you can add in a late penalty. So to do that, you would simply select your late penalty from the drop-down menu if you already have one created. If you have one that you use for lessons and you want to use that same late penalty for web tests, that will be available here for you already using this drop-down menu. However, if you wanted to create a new late penalty solely for web test that is separate from your lessons, you can easily create that here from this page. You would click Create/View. Create/View. And click Create New. And if you're familiar with our lesson late penalty, it works the exact same way. If you're not, I'll give you a quick overview of how this would work. So you would give your late penalty template a name. I would name it something like web test late penalty. This is just for you. Your students won't ever see this template name. So name it something that will be helpful for you to find moving forward. You can either do a fixed penalty or a graduated penalty using percentages or points. So fixed, no matter how late it is, maybe you're taking 50% off. Or graduated, which we see a lot more success with because students are encouraged to complete their assignments earlier rather than later. They're getting more credit for it earlier on than if they waited longer to take it. And we all know it's better for students to complete their assignments earlier while the content is still fresh in their minds and before too many late assignments pile up and they're just overwhelmed. So I highly encourage you to try the graduated late penalty, see if that works for your students before moving on to the fixed. You can change the number of graduations here. Our default is 4. And just as an example, maybe you're taking off 10% for 1 day late, 20% off for 2 days late. You don't have to go in increments of 10 like I am. This is just one example. And 40% for any more than 3 days late. So if it's ever more than 3 days late, it's always going to be a 40% penalty off of whatever grade they receive on that web test assignment. You'd simply save changes. And then you could assign the late penalty to your class here. Don't forget, you will have to allow late submissions first and then apply your late penalty. All right. Well, this was a quick and easy, simple overview of just some of our features that we recently released to you all over about the last year. In case you were not aware, or there's always something new to learn within the Hawks platform. So if you haven't tried some of these out, I encourage you to give one of these 3 a try this spring. And if you have questions about anything I've covered today, please send them into the Q&A box and I can address those here and now. If any questions come up in the future, you can always reach out to your training and support representative, or alternatively, we have an entire support team dedicated to helping you. You can always reach out to our main support team by phone or through our 24/7 live chat, and we are always happy to assist you. So I'll leave just a minute for any questions to come in. All right. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day and a great start to the spring semester. Please never hesitate to reach out if we can be of assistance.